All right, I think we should be working. All right, hello out there. Nice to see people here. Hello, wherever you are. Make sure YouTube is working. And we should be okay. All right, I'm going to erase the board. Get ready. All right. If you can see this, post a comment. We see that we should be working. All right, here we go. Okay, I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com, and I am back for another live video over here on YouTube. And this should be an entertaining one. It might be a little bit unbelievable for some people, but if you clicked on the video and you're curious about how to speak English fluently, it's actually almost easier for me to explain to people that they can become a native speaker rather than like how they get fluent. Because if you understand how natives learn, then you can really just do the same thing. So nice to see everybody there. We'll give a moment for people to file in, and then we're going to get right into it. If you have any comments as I go, feel free to post them. I want to get through this content quickly. Then I'll come back and answer any questions people might have, but this really is quite a simple idea once you start thinking about how to be a native speaker the right way, and it's, again, actually quite simple. All right, let's get into it. Let's see, what are... Okay, just making sure we're working over here. All right, so the basic idea here, again, I will say I will come back and check chat. Nice to see everybody in chat, but I want to get through this quickly just to make sure I'm helping people. And again, I'll come back and check chat and questions after I'm done. But the basic idea here is that most people think, or most learners think, that they can't become fluent because maybe they aren't born in a native English-speaking country, or they don't have English-speaking parents or whatever. But over 20 years, more than 20 years of helping people get fluent, I've seen again and again that the thing that actually gets people fluent is how you learn. So it's what you learn, the specific content you learn, and then how you learn it. That's the real difference between people who speak fluently, especially natives, and those who struggle to speak. So the things that people think they need are really what they don't need. Again, living in an English-speaking country or trying to speak with people every day, you really just need to get the right input. So as an example, my two children, they have a father, so one parent who is a native speaker, and by native I just really mean the way I learned English was understanding everything all in English. And I also got lots of cultural references and other things that helped me understand the language and the culture of where I grew up in the United States. So me having native parents, or them also like just learning the language, again, these same things where it's what you're learning and then how you're learning it, that's actually what helps them speak fluently. And it's not because they were born native, because nobody is born native. So I can take a Chinese baby and raise that baby in America, and they will not learn Chinese naturally because they were just like from China. They will grow up and learn the language of the place in which they're living. And so it's the same thing with anybody trying to learn the language, just like my own kids today. So they have one parent who had that experience, and the other parent, so my wife, is Japanese, and she's able to teach them English and help them understand a little bit of English, but also mostly teaching them Japanese. But the important thing is they're learning those languages in that language. That's the important thing. So I really want to get clear at the beginning of this video that native speakers are not born, they're made. Okay, so you can become one too, just by changing the way you learn, especially if you've been spending many years learning English as a second language. All right, so I had an interesting lesson. I think the last video I did, it was another live video, and I was talking about how to go through how to learn a language in that language. And so this is what I call learning English as a first language rather than learning English as a second language, which is what most people do. But then I gave an example like I often do. It was I'll just do this very quick example again just to show you what I did. But this is an example of me teaching Japanese in Japanese. So helping you understand Japanese as a first language. So I gave this example. I'll give it very quickly again. maka, maka, maka. Aoi maka, akai maka. Kuro, kuroi maka. Kuro, aka, ao. Aoi maka, akai maka, aka. Akai maka, ao, aoi maka. Kuro, kuroi maka. Ao, aoi shatsu. Aoi shatsu, aoi maka. Okay, so just very simple example about how to understand Japanese in Japanese, and this is just a glimpse, like a small just look that it is possible to understand a language in another language. But I got a question from a learner that said, well, I'm still kind of thinking and translating in my head when I do that. So today I wanted to take this idea further and really help you understand some things in English that, that really break this kind of cycle of trying to learn through translations. So you can imagine like a native speaker or someone who speaks fluently and they can understand and learn new things in the language they're learning. The learner typically, I like to think about kind of translations as like a life. This is like a life, you can call this a life preserver or a life ring. So when someone is out there, they're kind of maybe floating in the water. So this is supposed to be some water over here. And so this life ring is kind of like the translations. So many people feel actually a little bit nervous if they don't use translations in order to learn. So they really feel like they need something to hold on to because they're just nervous about trying to go in. We call that going into the deep end. So into the deep end. So if you think about a pool over here, usually a pool has kind of like a shallow end, and then it gets maybe a little bit lower, and then you have a deep end down here. So often people, you can kind of walk around over here or swim just a little bit, but when you get into the deep end, you actually have to know how to swim. And if you can't, then you get maybe a life ring or some kind of floating thing to hold on to. And this life ring for language learners is typically learning through translations because this is how they're taught to learn, and they think it's impossible to learn another language in that language. Okay, so I just gave you an example of learning Japanese in Japanese, but this speaker or this learner was commenting, well, actually, I'm still translating through my native language. So just like, obviously I'm teaching you colors here, so I've got blue and black and red, but if you could actually continue learning those, just giving you one example probably won't make you fluent in that thing, but if I could continue to teach you more and help you understand more examples all in Japanese, you would become fluent and you would become a native by thinking in Japanese. Okay, so that's really the idea. So it's not about me being born in Japan. The whole idea of me becoming a fluent speaker or even a native speaker in Japanese is that I'm learning Japanese the same way a native does. Okay, so this again means what I'm learning and how I'm learning it. All right, so what I'm learning, I'm actually learning the real vocabulary that people use, and then I'm actually learning it in the same way they do. So I'm not learning Japanese through English, I'm understanding Japanese in Japanese itself. All right, but today I wanted to take this idea further and just give you two simple ways that you can trick your brain or kind of work around your brain trying to translate things. So I want to give you some examples. Two basic things. We could go into more if you have more questions, but these are two examples that should be simple enough to kind of trick your brain or get around this desire to translate. And so this is when you're learning something. I'll just give you these two options over here. We're only going to talk about two, but basically there are more. But this is the general idea of all you need to prove to yourself that you really can learn English in English, and that's what a native does. Okay, so a native learns English in English, and they're understanding those same kinds of cultural references. Obviously, someone who spends a lot more time getting that would be able to speak more fluently, and they would feel more confident. But it's still the same thing. So just like a young child, if you start learning the language and a young child starts learning the language, you can both become native speakers. That's exactly how it works, okay? So the first thing we're going to do is take something in English. So I'm going to do both of these examples in English, not Japanese, because we're here to learn English. But the first example is like something that you don't know in your native language already. So don't know. So don't know in your native language. I'm just going to write this very quickly. So something that you don't know in your native language, I will give you just a quick story about my own life for learning. So when I came to Japan, I came here to study Japanese gardening. And so as I'm learning gardening, I knew like the kind of basic words for gardening. But as I'm learning that, I'm learning all kinds of interesting vocabulary that I didn't already know in English. And these are things like the names of trees and flowers, or the names of gardening tools, or other things like that that I just don't have in English at all. And so in this example, it's impossible to translate because there's nothing to translate from. I don't know that thing in English already. So if you show me, I don't know, let's say there's some special kind of flower that's only in Japan, and I learn the name of this flower, like it becomes a native word for me because I'm not translating anything, all right? And so an example, one of many examples, there was this thing when I was working in the garden, I worked with actually a gardening company, and we had these three wooden posts, and there was a chain block on here, a chain block. Now this is probably some new English vocabulary for you, but a chain block is basically like a gear system that lets you pull something heavy with a chain on the side of it. So you spin this chain around and it can help you pull something up. And so this chain block was on here, and then the chain would help you turn the inside of this, and then you're using that force to lift something like a rock or something like that. So if I had a rock, like a big rock, and I'm building a garden and I don't have enough space, I can't get maybe like a tool or a crane or something in there, I can use this, and the name of this thing in Japanese was sanmata. So this is a word I learned for a thing that I had never heard of in English. All right. So maybe I'd seen that before, but I just didn't know the name of that thing. All right. So this was an example for me in Japanese, and I thought I would give you one in English. So there are lots of these things. I just gave you an example, chain block. If you don't know what that is already, you can Google it. It's better just to get a picture of that thing. But it's basically a little, like a pulley that you can use to lift things even by yourself. Yeah, so exactly. Look at that, Mike in the chat. Thank you very much. So it's a pulley system. And again, like even the word chain block is something that people probably don't know, but you can figure, it's like a little square looking block thing with a chain on it. Now I understood that word in English. All right. So let me give you just a quick example of something that you can understand in English. I have a friend who always wears he always wears different colored socks. So this is my friend over here. Very smart guy, but for some reason, he'll wear like a red sock, and we'll put a black sock on this side over here. So he has the socks, but he doesn't do this, like, I don't know why he does it. It's just a weird quirk that he has. So it's a weird quirk. It's a weird quirk. Let me see here. Let me check chat. Make sure everything is over here. If people putting things that I can't read over here, then I'm not going to be able to read that. But make sure people are not spamming chat. Anyway, so he has a weird quirk of wearing two different kinds of socks. So he always wears two different socks. I don't know why he does that. He's a very smart guy, but I guess he just doesn't think very much about his socks. Now, another weird quirk that I notice about a home, so a friend of mine, a different friend of mine, not this guy, he bought an old house. And one of the weird quirks about this house is that he would kind of, he would walk like on one side of the house, but you would hear like a sound on the other side of the house. It was really like a weird kind of quirk. We couldn't figure out why that was happening. But you could walk, sometimes you walk on a floor and it creaks a little bit, like it has a creaking sound. But this was just a weird quirk about the house. Okay? So when you talk about somebody having like an interesting thing or like a weird quirk about the town I live in, as that there are lots of like dog grooming places, but everyone owns a cat. It's just like a weird quirk about the town where I live. It's really weird. So I never see anybody walking dogs or anything. Lots of dog grooming places, but everybody has a cat. It's just a weird quirk about my town. Okay? So here again, without me taking time even to explain what this word means, you're understanding it just by getting different examples, and you're understanding it as a native. Okay, so when I'm talking about becoming a native in something, this is what I mean. So you're learning without having to translate, and even if you have a word in your native language for something like this already, you're thinking more about the story and understanding the situations I'm telling you, which helps you learn it like a native. And that means you're becoming a native. Okay, so being a native doesn't mean that you're living in a particular place or that you have parents from a particular place. None of that matters. The thing that actually matters is how you learn and what you learn. So quirk is a very common word that natives will know, but very few learners would know this word. Okay, so this is a quirk. Now I think, yes, Fabio just says a duck makes a similar sound. Now that is Q-U-A. C-K, quack, which is a different sound. Quack, quack. So quirk, a quirk, like you could have a quirky friend who's always doing kind of interesting things. They seem a little bit weird. So my friend, like they usually walk on their hands. Another friend of mine walks on their hands. I don't know why they do that. It's just like it's a quirky thing about them. They do everything else normally, but this one kind of weird thing they do, it's a little bit quirky, a quirky thing that they do. Okay? So notice here, I'm explaining this the same way I would explain this to my own children. All right? And so when they ask me something, I don't go into a grammar or like a linguistic example trying to explain a lot of things about like the language that most regular people wouldn't know. I'm just helping them understand the situation like a native. Okay? Hopefully everybody's getting this. So this is the first kind of example where I'm trying to help you understand something in English that maybe you don't have in your native language, and the point is to get around the natural, like the first thing your brain is really trying to do is, okay, how can I translate this into my native language? But if you understand something, you don't need to translate. So a native speaker doesn't need to translate. That's what it means to be native. All right, so a fluent speaker, like you're not trying to translate from one language into the other when you learn, so you don't have to translate when you speak. All right, hopefully this makes sense. So just one example, there are lots of, interesting, quirky people in my town too that, like one guy, he wears a hat, but he wears a hat on his hand. I don't know why, it's just he's a kind of quirky guy that, yeah, everything else he does is fine. So most people, they wear a hat on their head, but he puts the hat on his hand. It's just a weird quirk that the guy has. Okay. I bet you can probably think of some maybe quirky things that you've seen in your town or even yourself. Maybe you do some quirky things. All right, just a weird quirk that people might have. But you should be starting to get this idea of, it is possible to become fluent and actually to think like a native, and that's how you become native. And you do this, again, one word at a time. I didn't just make you magically a native in the whole English language, but as you start getting more words and you start understanding the language this way, that's how you get fluent, okay? So it's easier really to think about this as, I should learn everything in English as a first language, and that's how I start learning vocabulary. So you learn it in context, you understand things much faster, much more easily that way, and that's how you become a great speaker. All right, let me go back and check chat, and then we will look at the second example that here kind of circumvents. So this is another good word for you. This blue marker is really strong, but I think this is all I have to work with. The red is a little bit faint. All right, good word for you, circumvent. So you probably, look at that. That looks like circle. Okay, so we have to circumvent something means to go around it. So if I have a rock over here and I'm trying to walk this way, oh, I can't go straight. I have to circumvent the rock. I need to go around it. Try to go around it, okay? So what we're trying to do is get around this rock here. This rock is your desire, your natural habit of translating information because that's what you've been taught probably most of your life in learning languages, all right? So if you had to learn English in school, you probably learned English through your native language, and now we need to circumvent this. So I'm trying to show you ways that help you do that. So the first one, we've done this already, trying to learn new things that you don't know in English. Okay, so new things that are in English that maybe you don't have them in your native language. And we'll look at the second one in just a second after I check chat. All right, so if you do have questions, let me know. I want to make sure all of this is clear because when you understand something well, that's when you start speaking. So you don't become, I don't like write the word quirk on the board and then give you a definition of it and then, or even a translation, which would be even worse. I don't do that. I want to help you understand it like a native, okay? So when you understand like a native, you speak like a native. But remember, a native very rarely is learning things just by getting translations of them. So we really want to help you understand like a native. All right, let's see. As it says, hello, Kendall, George, nice to see everybody here. Mary, konnichiwa, says Elena. Nishimi Amana, innocent, I'm available, thank you for your assistance. All right, lady says hello. Can I say there is a lot of people instead of there are a lot of people? Yes, so you can say that. You will even hear me using the language incorrectly in this way. It's incorrect grammar, but natives use it because it's just faster and easier to say. But don't write it. If you're writing, that's like a very basic mistake, so don't put that in your writing. But you can say that and you will hear native speakers using that. Often the only difference where people will notice a mistake like that is your pronunciation. So if you feel confident you're speaking smoothly and you use the grammar incorrectly, then no one will care. But if you have really bad pronunciation and you say the same thing, then people will think, oh, his grammar is just really bad too. Even if you're, even if you understand that native speakers are using that same thing incorrectly. So it doesn't become a native go against the definition of native unless you are born a native. Well, the definition of native doesn't mean born a native. This is what people think, but a baby is not born native. A baby isn't born knowing how to speak the language. The baby has to learn the language just like anybody else. So people assume, they think, they believe that being born native means, okay, if I'm born, like I'm just magically born in Japan, but I have no one to teach me, am I going to learn Japanese? Probably not. If I'm born in the United States and no one to teach me, I'm not going to learn English either. All right? So no one is born native. You happen to be born somewhere, but then people teach you the language. And if I could take a native English child and teach them the same way they learned like English as a second language, I guess that would be a little bit weird because typically you're doing that through translations. But if we could imagine that, they would not become a very good speaker. All right, like most of the people that spend even many years learning English as a second language, they still can't speak because they have this same problem. So if you're learning through translations, it's going to be much more difficult for you to speak because you will be thinking about translations when you speak. All right, so being born a native, no one is born native. You become native by how you learn. So how you learn and what you learn. And I've given you both of those examples here. So what you learn, meaning the real vocabulary that people use every day. So part of this is regular grammar, vocabulary, idioms, phrasal verbs, but also cultural references like quotes from movies and things like that. So they also learn that. The way they learn that is important. They're not trying to learn that through translations. They understand it all contextually. And so that's how you can become a native in the same way. If you're getting those same examples, then you will learn to understand those things in the same way. All right, nice to see you from Julino from Ecuador. And Mike, what's up, people? How you doing? Let's see, I'm Amal. I wanted to learn speaking like native speakers. Can you help me? Yes, so that's what this video is about. So I follow you since 2014. You are a great teacher. Glad to hear it. If you know other people we can help, let them know. Tell them to follow the channel. It's 3:40 a.m. Oh my goodness, in Turkey, and I've just met your lesson. Luckily, again, I am old enough remembering the film serial titled Shogun in TRT channel decades ago. Yes, I remember that show. They remade that. I think I don't know if that's if it's a TV show or a movie or something, but there's a new version of that available now. Abdullah says, hello. Sandra, nice to see you there again. Allah says, does a paid program differ from what you offer on YouTube? Please clarify. Yes, of course. What we have on YouTube, like this video, it's explaining to people the principles about how do you get fluent. And so often I give examples and teach some vocabulary as well. But what we do in our actual programs, especially Fluent for Life, is we take you step by step and we get you fluent. So if you think about this kind of video, I'm teaching you what we do and how you could do that yourself if you like. And often people take this information and they realize there's a better way to learn and they start improving by themselves, and that's what they do, and that's great. But some people, actually many people, they still want help. And so if they'd rather just have me tell them exactly what to learn, exactly how to do it, I get them fluent. That's what we do in Fluent for Life. So if you're just looking for principles about how to learn and some vocabulary, things like that, that's what we do on the YouTube channel. But you can click on the link in the description below this video to learn more about what we do in Fluent for Life. All right, let's see, a weird quirk. It's like a weird habit. Yes. All right. Pato says, hi, teacher. I understand that everybody and everyone are singular, but often I hear Americans say, for example, everybody loves their country. Is that to avoid saying his or her? Yes. So and it's the same example like I gave before. When you hear commonly used incorrect grammar, it's just because it's faster and easier to say. So it like having a preposition at the end of a sentence, like where are you going to? Or like, why don't you come with? So it's incorrect. It's kind of odd, but people use it that way just because it sounds a bit more conversational or because it's faster or easier to say. Hello, good morning from Korea. I can't read the Hangul, so put your name in there if you'd like me to know your name. All right. What kind of sound does a cicada make? You mean like the name of that sound? What is the name of that sound? Maybe people would just call that a chirp. It's like, I mean, the actual sound is like shh, but I don't know the name of that in English. I don't know what we call that actually. That would be like a good thing to learn. But if you learn the name of that sound, like what do we call that? What do we call the sound of a cicada chirping in English? I guess we would maybe call it like a kind of a chirp, something like that. But if you look that up and you get some examples, you would become a native about that thing. All right, so you would understand it in English. Let's see, Moses says, how are you? I'm doing fine. Try to translate. It's a hurdle to fluency. Yes. Kazim said, would you please emphasize some common grammatical patterns for some intermediate students like me? Thank you. We won't be covering that in this video, but that is the kind of thing that we cover in Fluent for Life. Basically, we teach you those patterns, but we help you understand them like a native. So rather than just telling you a list of grammar patterns that you should know, and there are lots of YouTube videos about that already, but they don't really help people become more fluent. There's a big difference between logically understanding some grammar and then using that grammar fluently. All right, hello out there. Sadly late again. It's okay. Abdu says, teacher, I'm happy to watch. Please explain to me how to use modal verbs. Yes, that's not the subject of this video, but I have covered that in other videos. If you do have questions about specific things, just search our channel for that, and you should find videos. I've got over 600 videos on the channel, and so you'll find quite a few things about that. John says, hi there, this is John. I come from China. I really appreciate your teaching style. Glad to hear it. Thank you for the kind words. If you know other people from China or wherever you are, tell them, hey, you should come watch the channel. He says, hello from Morocco. Appreciate your efforts. All right. The environment is really important when coming to learn, says Nicholas. Yes, but by environment, it really just means the input that you're getting. So I could be living in America, but if I surround myself with lots of input for Chinese, and I can understand that like a native Chinese person, then I will learn Chinese. That is the environment. So it doesn't mean where you physically are. It's the environment of the information that you put around yourself. Okay, so if I go to like Chinese cultural festivals and I've got Chinese friends and I'm eating Chinese food or watching Chinese cooking shows or something like that, all of that information is going to get me fluent in Chinese and help me become a native speaker of Chinese. Okay. All right. let's see, Monica says, my problem is that I forget the pronunciation. If you would like to understand how to pronounce words, we had an example before of quirk and quack. So these are the kinds of things that we cover in Frederick. Frederick is our app that will teach you over 2,000 words and sentences and help you understand the pronunciation the same way a native does. So if you'd like to learn those pronunciations and spelling and understand native speakers more easily, just click on the link in the description below this video. Let's see, Alice says, I have a dream to know EUA. I'm Brazilian. Fabio says chirp. Yes, maybe a chirp, I guess, or a cheep or something. I don't know what the sound of that is, but look that up. That would be an interesting question. When you have those questions, don't just forget about it. Actually make an effort and look them up. All right, Yusuf, can you give us some examples of when to use the expression, there is nothing like home? Well, that's typically an expression used just by itself. Like we typically say there's no place like home. So there's... T-H-E-R-E, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. And probably the most famous example of this is from The Wizard of Oz, where Dorothy is just saying like, there's no place like home, like I wish I could be back home. And it just means it's a special thing for you and there's nothing else like it. All right? So there's no place like home. Like if you're going out and traveling, maybe you feel a little bit nervous or uncomfortable or tired because it's just different from what you're used to. When you come back home, it's very comfortable for you. It just feels very good. So there's no place like home. All right, there's no place like home. But you could use that really for anything. So there's no place like this local restaurant that we go to. So it just means this is a special place. It's different from everything else, and it's particularly important for me or for us or our group or whatever. So there's no place like whatever that thing is. All right. Natalia says, good morning from Almaty. Nice to see you there. Troyano says, you are the best one. It's my pleasure. Alejandro, nice to see you there again. Greetings from Mexico. I appreciate your teaching style here in Korea. Monica, again, thank you, John. Put all the information into my mind. Yes, that is the goal. So that's what I do. I'm trying to make you a native speaker. All right. So if you're listening to me, if you're understanding things and you're thinking, wow, I actually understand what this guy is talking about and I feel more confident. You might not remember everything in one video, but as you continue to learn and you get more examples, you start to recognize the patterns. You are becoming a native speaker. That's what that means. So the more you can understand things, I don't want you to just translate faster in your head. I actually want you to think like a native and become a native. All right, Kazim says, thank you so much. Let's see, I can't read that Cyrillic. Should I write down all the words that I learned to remember them better? Yes, I mean, writing words down is helpful, especially if you want to go back and review them. But I would write down different examples or look for various examples and try to write those down. So you're trying to create this idea of patterns in your mind so that you recognize, oh, like you see somebody doing something, it seems a little bit odd or different or weird or whatever. That's like a weird quirk, like a quirky kind of thing. And so as you hear those examples, you feel more confident that you understand that vocabulary, and then you can start using it yourself. Like, oh, there's like a quirky thing about this. You know, I go to, here's an example of like a quirky thing I noticed in Japan. I think I've told this story before, but if I go to, and this is not just me, like people who go to the train station, and I was trying to explain this to a guy. I was on a Japanese TV show a few weeks ago. I don't know if there are any Japanese people out watching this video right now or watching it later, but if you know who Ryu Oshiba is, I was on his show. He's like a kind of famous comedian, actor, but I was on his show a little bit, and when the producer of the show, when I was talking with him, he was asking me what are some interesting things or like some different things or surprising things or whatever that I noticed about Japan, and I told a bunch of them, but I was trying to explain this one thing that and he couldn't quite get it because I couldn't show it to him physically, but if you go to so imagine this is a tablet, like a computer screen, and if you go to the ticket counter with an actual person there, so there's a person using this little kind of tablet thing, and it's got digital buttons on it. So you're buying a ticket and you want to go here and like this, and the person is touching these different buttons. So this is in Japan at an actual window, a ticket window where I'm talking with a person and they're helping me buy a ticket. And so I say I want to go here, and the interesting thing, a kind of quirky thing I noticed is that they will touch the buttons here, and that makes sense, but they will also touch the side of the tablet that doesn't have anything on it. So they're doing this quite quickly, and then they touch up here, and then and then touch up here again. And I said, is there a button up there? And they said, no, it's not actually doing anything. So that's like something that they actually learn. It's kind of a quirky, it seems like a quirky thing to me that they would take time to do that, but that's probably part of their training. If anyone else out here works at a Japanese like ticket place, maybe you can explain to me why that is. But I've asked people and I didn't get like an answer. I just said, oh, that's an interesting kind of thing. So this is an example of a quirky thing that I noticed. It's just like a weird kind of unexplainable thing. All right. So as you get more examples of that, you feel more confident about using this vocabulary. Let's see. All right. Kazim again, thank you. Okay, answer that one. All right. Fabio says, do I miss America? Not particularly. I don't know. I mean, I miss the people, you know, my friends or family or whatever, but I still get to see people from time to time. But yeah, I don't really, it's interesting. Whenever I go back to America, I miss Japan. So I'll be in, you know, America or something for a little while. I'm just like, yeah, it'd be nice to go back to Japan. So I enjoy America, but I enjoy Japan more. All right, Alejandro says, can we use pull off like using achieve, or are they different? Pull off is like an achievement, but the slight difference here is that when you pull off something, people think maybe you probably were not going to do it. So it's like an unexpected thing. You were trying to do a trick, like if I throw this marker up in the air and catch it in my mouth. If I catch it, well, I really pulled that off. So it's kind of an achievement. I did something, but I was just able to do something. So if I throw up the marker and it comes down, I try to catch it in my teeth. And if I do it, so I've not practiced this before, I just throw it up and then try to catch it in my teeth, I'm probably, I don't know, you could say I pulled that off. All right. So it is an achievement. When you achieve something, you can also achieve something through hard work. So if I spend a lot of time practicing this and then I do it, I'm not really pulling it off. I just did it after a lot of hard work. Okay. So that's the difference between, you could reach, like here's the goal of achievement. If I work hard and study hard and practice and get there, I could get to the achievement, or I just try it the first time and like luckily do it. So I'm reaching the same achievement, but one is actually through a lot of trial and effort and study and practice, and the other is just, I pulled it off luckily. Okay, so that's understanding the difference there. So it's more about the way you do something rather than what you do. Okay, Hi says, thank you. Armando says, the more you listen to the more fluent you become. Is that accurate? Well, it's not just listening to English. The point is, how well do you understand something? And I explained this in my previous video. So usually what happens with people they're trying to learn a language, I gave this example here, very simple idea about how well you understand something. So let's just say this is 100% understanding and this is 0% understanding over here. So you learn a new word or a new phrase or something, and at first you don't really understand what's happening, but maybe you get more examples and look at that. Now I'm at like, I don't know, 40%. I understand something pretty well. And at this point, you can recognize information, you can hear what other people are saying, but all of this over here, this is still some kind of doubt that you have that's stopping you from speaking, okay? So when you eliminate or destroy or get rid of all of this, you move your level of understanding all the way up here. Now you feel really 100% confident about using something, and that's when you speak, okay? So most people, when they're learning a language, they get to this point. So I hear this from learners all the time. This is really the number one problem that people have, and they often still won't listen to me about how to fix it. But it's okay. I'm here to help the people I can help who want to be helped. But the main problem that people have is that they understand something well enough to recognize it in a movie or a TV show or something, but they don't really know it well enough to use it fluently because they still have some kind of doubt or question or whatever. So they're in a conversation and I forgot the word, or how do I use this? Am I using this word correctly? Or did I remember the pronunciation? There are lots of little problems like this, and these little doubts stop you from understanding actually how to become fluent. Okay. John says this picture looks like a signal sign. I don't know if you're talking about this or something else, but so this is the basic idea. So we begin by not understanding anything at all. So if let's say I start learning Turkish or Swahili or some other language, like I move to the country or I just start listening. If someone is talking to me in one of those languages, I don't understand anything at all. So as I start to understand a little bit more, now I'm feeling a bit more confident. But this is not about me like being able to speak, because I still have some kind of doubt. All right. So and Mike just said this phrase of practice makes perfect. Now, what does that mean? So in the previous video, I talked about how to actually practice your English. And so what we really mean by practice is getting more input. So putting more input in here and destroying the doubts that stop you from speaking. Okay, so that's the actual practice, just like I'm giving you for the examples I gave before about something being quirky. So I've given you like 10 different examples of something being quirky. And as you get another example, more examples, you start really feeling more and more confident until, okay, now I really understand something and I can use it fluently. Okay, so that's what it means to be confident and to actually practice a language. All right. So when you're listening to some information, if you don't really understand it, or you're not really feeling more confident because you're not eliminating any doubts, you have maybe some questions about something, but those questions are not answered, then you won't feel confident about speaking. Okay. So this is why you can know a lot of English, but not speak. Okay. Let me repeat that. This is why you can know a lot of English, so you can recognize a lot of English, you can understand people, but still have trouble speaking, still forget words, still be uncertain, unsure, worried, nervous, whatever about these particular questions about whatever, the grammar point or some pronunciation or a cultural reference or something like that. Here's like a perfect example. We got an email from a learner that was using some quite good English. There were, I think, not many mistakes in it, but one I thought was my team told me about this. I thought it was just kind of a funny example. What was that example? It was pretty kind of like it was an interesting example because I had not heard anyone. I had not heard anyone use it, but now this is actually a good opportunity for me to teach this vocabulary to you because it's actually very common and very good vocabulary. So the student was using the vocabulary or trying to explain they have, or let's just use it from their perspective. So I have many, and they're basically trying to say I have many appealing, let's just say appealing. So appealing, A-P-P-E-A-L-I-N-G. So appealing job opportunities. Okay, so this word appealing, it means, like that thing looks good. It sounds like a good idea to you, an appealing thing. All right, but instead of using appealing, they used a different native expression, but they used it incorrectly. Okay, and so I'm going to just give you like the actual correct thing that they should have said, but what they said in the email was something like, I have many mouse watering. So many mouse watering job opportunities or something like that. So I have many mouse watering job opportunities. And it feels funny to say it, like you will understand if you don't know this expression already, but I have many mouth-watering job opportunities. And this is because they heard the expression maybe somewhere, but they didn't hear it quite right, because the correct expression is mouth-watering. Okay, so if you think about mouse watering, like imagine I have, we'll draw a little mouse over here. And here's the tail, and here's like a watering can, you know. You think about pouring like water on top of a mouse, like mouse watering. And just thinking about like reading that, I heard this example and I thought, okay, so this is an example of someone heard an expression and maybe it was a typo, but probably not. It was just someone who had like kind of heard this, but didn't really understand what was happening here. So the actual expression is mouth watering, and by mouth watering, it means when you look at some delicious food and your mouth starts to water. So it just means you start getting saliva or spit inside your mouth. So you look at whatever your favorite food is. Just imagine that right now. Imagine there's a plate of your favorite food right in front of you. Oh my goodness, it looks so good. You can smell it. Oh, like your mouth is watering. And so you're looking at this delicious food. And so your mouth, it naturally starts to make saliva because that's what helps to break down food. It's the first thing that breaks down food in your mouth. Okay, so you eat food, your saliva is kind of breaking it down, you start chewing it. All of that is to make the food into tiny pieces so it can go into your body. Okay, so that's the first part of that. So when we talk about some food looking delicious, it gets you excited to eat that, we call this mouth watering. So this is an example of someone who learned, if it's not a typo, I'm guessing it's not a typo, but it's someone who had learned an expression, but didn't really feel 100% confident about it. All right, so they're like, maybe they said mouse watering, but they probably would think like, what does that mean? Why would you say mouse watering? It's like a weird idiom or something like that. Okay, so this is an example of something where, like to give our little triangle example again, they understood something pretty well. So they used it correctly. The context was correct. So there were many appealing, and you could say like many mouth-watering job opportunities. That's not the most natural way to use it, but a native speaker would understand what you're saying. So that's the correct usage, but they used it incorrectly because they're not quite understanding what's happening with the expression. So a native speaker wouldn't make that mistake because they know, oh, like it's mouth-watering. Okay. Yeah, so you could say appealing and attractive are similar. There are usually many ways to express yourself. And that's another thing we won't really cover a lot in this video. But when you're a native speaker, you know different ways of expressing yourself. So you don't have to think a lot about, okay, I forget this word, or I don't know, maybe I don't feel so confident about this. I just express it in a different way. All right? All right, hopefully everybody's getting it. I'll go back through chat very quickly. Make sure. All right, I think we've got some. All right, let's see. So yes, just to finish with Armando's question over here, the goal is not just to listen to a lot of English. It's to destroy the doubt. Okay, so you can be very specific about this. So if you hear a word like, you think it's mouse watering, like, oh, that's interesting. Is that correct? Maybe you search that in Google and it automatically corrects you like, no, that should be mouth watering and this is why. So when you hear that, oh, okay, I eliminated the doubt and that's why I can now use it fluently. Okay, so if you have doubt about something, you won't speak. All right, Maria says, how do you understand the most of the native person talks, but when you talk, you feel stuck and cannot talk properly? So that I just explained what that is. So again, when you understand something, you just don't understand it well enough to feel confident about using it, okay? So there's still some kind of doubt when you hear something where, yeah, I understand what the person is saying, but when you try to say that, now you have to translate or try to think about rules or something, and it becomes more difficult for you to express yourself. That's the difficult thing. Is watching videos through YouTube make me fluent? Well, I don't know. Is watching YouTube videos making you fluent? You know, and this is a question you can ask yourself. Most of the videos I see on YouTube for helping people learn English, it's usually a bunch of vocabulary, so random vocabulary about something, or maybe some tips about, I don't know, like traditional language learning kinds of things, or it will be grammar tables. Like, hey, we're going to learn like every grammar point in one video. And and then, of course, like people are still not using grammar correctly and they still make lots of mistakes. So when you think about like learning with video on YouTube, you could get fluent if you had all that content and knew how to use it and learn with it the right way. But most of the content should not be regular English learning videos. So the basic idea is, yes, like you can learn English on and get fluent with English videos, but it's most of that content should not be regular like English teachers telling you to learn English or trying to give you examples of stuff. You should be just watching content that you enjoy, and the same way you would do it in your native language. So if you're from Mexico and your native language is Spanish and you're trying to get fluent in English, watch content in English for native English speakers, but at your level. Okay, so don't try to watch something really difficult, like maybe you enjoy, I don't know, kids shows or something like that. But that's how you're going to understand it like a native, rather than trying to translate that information. All right, let's see. All right, I think I got that. Abdos says, teacher, I understand a lot of words, but when I speak a bit slowly, my mind thinking like a turtle. Yeah, maybe you mean turtle, I guess. Please, how can I pass this program? Again, this is the main problem. So you see lots of people with the same comment here. It's just the same comment in different ways. I understand a lot of English, but I don't speak. And the reason is you still have some kind of doubt about whatever that is. So as you eliminate the doubt, you speak. And so I haven't really talked about fluency triggers in this video, but I gave some examples of them already. All of these little stories I'm giving you that help you remember things and understand new English, those are each what I call a fluency trigger. And some of these work together, but the point of these things is to help you. It's basically to trigger your mind to understand things in English and feel more confident about using them by eliminating doubt. So if I can make you understand something well, if I can eliminate doubt about pronunciation or grammar or cultural whatever, then you will feel more confident speaking. Okay? So you don't just take a word you learn and repeat the word quirk again and again. You actually have to hear it used by different people in different contexts, and then you really start to understand it well. All right, Mike says, I'm going to practice shadowing technique to improve my pronunciation, or what another technique would you recommend? Thank you in advance. Remember, you don't need to repeat after people in order to improve your speaking. What you just need is basically you need other people talking to you. Okay, lots of different examples, and you can find those on YouTube. This is what we do in Fluent for Life. The whole point is to help you understand things and remove doubt. So if you're trying to get lots of examples, like shadowing a teacher is going to teach you to sound like that teacher. But most regular natives don't talk like English teachers. They talk normally. So even me, like this is still normal English, but I'm not using a lot of extra vocabulary. I'm speaking more slowly, more clearly, and I'm blending my sounds together so it still sounds like a native speaker, but I'm speaking more slowly. And so if you spend a lot of time listening to English teachers on YouTube and that's how you're learning English, then that's a different language than the way natives really speak. So you need to get both, but you need to get a lot more of how natives are actually speaking. So you need to get those examples. And if you're trying to like shadow those people, that's a better idea than trying to like just copy what native speakers are saying. All right. All right, MD from India, Natalia says, my opinion, people who understand you're speaking about 100% are very intelligent and have high level in English. I don't know. I can't speak to like the intelligent like level of people. See, I'm not using a lot of very difficult vocabulary. I'm intentionally using like some things, but like the word intentional. So I'm trying to use something. I'm thinking about that, actively using it. But typically I will explain things and help people understand the vocabulary. But we have a wide range of people, but your intelligence level doesn't have much to do with your ability to understand a language. It's just, are you getting good examples? Is the teacher good, or do you understand what's happening? All right, not least, what is the color of your t-shirt? It's blue, I guess. I don't know if there's a specific, more nuanced name for that, but it's blue. Thanks, Drew. Okay, let's see. I'm from Turkey, says Anil. Nice to see you there. Ariel says, it is very hard to learn English when you're old like me. I'm 63. Well, we have people, of course, we got a fire truck or whatever like usual. We have people over 80 years old and fluent for life just because they want to continue learning. So it's not about, if you've understood what I've said in this video and you feel more confident now, it doesn't matter what your age is, because you are probably also continuing to learn new things in your native language as well. So we don't really become worse at learning, but we need to be smarter about how we learn, because your brain it's just less interested in trying to write something again and again, or the typical methods that most people use. Okay? So it has nothing to do with your age. It's the important thing is really, do you have good teaching? Or if you don't have a teacher, are you getting good examples from things? All right, let's see. So John says, I got you. The main point is confidence. Yes, and confidence comes from eliminating doubt. That is the most important thing. All right, teacher, what do you like the most among Japanese characters? For example, Hello Kitty, Doraemon. That kind of character? I thought you meant like kanji. Let's see, what character do I like? Well, I like Doraemon. You know, I have a Doraemon book in my bag, actually. I think I do. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm like, here's an example of a Japanese comic book. Right here, Doraemon. Look at that face. Look at that. That's like a mouth-watering face right there. Isn't that? Look at that, mouth-watering. So he's like excited about something, like, oh my goodness. All right, so he's basically going back in time. In this example, he's going back in time, and he thinks he's smarter than everyone else, but he's actually not. But look at that. Isn't that amazing? Mouth-watering. So that's the kind of face people have when they look at, some steak or something like that, or whatever your favorite food is. All right. Let's see. Now where did I get that? Oh my goodness, you guys, it got a whole bunch of extra questions over here. All right, I'm going to try to go through these quickly so I can finish these examples. We're almost at 1 hour so far. Megan says, I struggle to create questions in English. What is the best method for creating questions? Well, number one, I would get at lots of examples of other people creating questions. Just look at those examples. And this is, again, the kind of thing we do in Fluent for Life, where we give you lots of examples of how native speakers say things. And that's when you feel confident about saying them yourself. Yusuf said, I think we touch out of a tactile screen to deactivate the mouse from the... I have no idea. What's going on, Drew? Nice to see you there, Ildar. Let's see. Abdul says, is it good to keep many ready translated sentences in mind for speaking? No, don't do that. Most people, if you try to prepare a lot of information, what is good is actually feeding your mind lots of examples, and then they will naturally come out when the time is ready. But if you try to prepare a bunch of things so you're ready to say something, then usually it doesn't come out well. Okay, so it's the same idea. If you're trying to think of new ideas for something, it's better to just get lots of examples, put that into your mind, and your mind will do all the hard work for you. But you have to feed your mind good examples, and that means getting lots of good native examples where you understand things and you're eliminating the doubt that stops you from speaking. All right, se me pasa agua la boca. Yeah, I don't know exactly how you would say that in Spanish, but sounds like it. Dr. Pavlov, yes, and so that's the same thing about making a dog's mouth water with the bell. In the movie Artificial Intelligence, they're talking about how to make a robot to have dreams, and one guy says, a robot dreams? How exactly do we pull this off? And they start to laugh. Yes, and so again, like when you're not sure how you would do something, that's the idea of pulling something off. So like I gave the example before, like if you know how to do something and it's difficult and you accomplish that thing, okay, great, like you're supposed to do that. But if you don't know how you're going to do something, but you try to do it anyway and you do it, you pulled it off. Okay? All right, but now you should understand better, and because you understand better, you will feel more confident and you can get the joke and you can laugh along with people. All right, thanks for the explanation. Hi, nice to see you there. Mike says, I look up the expression mouse watering can with a watering can and a mouse shape. That's pretty funny. Ahmed says, what do you think about just listening to podcasts and other videos with like 60% of understanding? Well, again, what is your goal? Do you want to speak well, or do you want to just understand information? It's okay. Some people don't need to speak, or they don't care. They don't want to speak. It's not important for them. They only want to understand maybe movies or TV shows or something like that. So in that case, it doesn't matter. This information, the things that I teach on my channel, they will help you, but it's just not that necessary if you don't need to speak. So if you don't care about speaking correctly, or it's not important to your life or whatever, you just don't need to speak. It's not something you do. Maybe you're just watching these videos for fun or something, but it's not necessary to do that. Okay, so my videos typically are for people who actually want to speak fluently. So in this case, I'm talking about understanding English like a native, and I'm giving you examples of how to do that. All right, mouthwatering. Yes, a mouthwatering job opportunity. I'm afraid I made a Sally. I don't know what that means. Let's see. I'm Brazilian, says Rodriguez. I just understand a little bit, but I don't give up. Glad to hear it. What about someone who can speak but doesn't have a good knowledge of English? Is that possible? Yes, it's called a child. This is what a child is. So a child, they get lots of examples. They might not have a large vocabulary, but they can still speak fluently of, just using what they have. Okay, so that's the difference. Anika says, are Japanese students cleverer than others as they have a seafood diet? Shall I be on this diet to improve my results? Thank you. I have no idea about how a seafood diet improves intelligence or not. Maybe they do. But I think if like Japanese were more intelligent about language learning, they would not be learning Japanese or not be learning English through Japanese. So even smart people or people who are generally thought to be smarter can do stupid things. All right. Let's see. Where did I go? I have to keep my finger on my phone this whole time so the chat doesn't run away. All right, Red Golden, I think confidence equals correct. Yes. Well, yeah, the basic idea is try not to think about being confident. Just think that confidence comes naturally as you eliminate doubt. That's the basic idea. All right, Body says, nice. Weverton Hi says, how to speak fluently with excellent grammar. I can speak at length, but I made so many grammar mistakes. Yes, it's because you just don't feel confident about the grammar. You don't know it well enough. That's it. That's the basic idea. So you need to get more examples. You need to understand the grammar like a native. This is what we do in Fluent for Life. Okay, so I'm giving you examples in these videos, but we go deep into all these things and we get you fluent in the program. So it's not about you having to do anything. If you get the right examples, you get fluent automatically. Let's see. Takewata says, hi from Japan. Thank you for your lesson in Golden Week. Yes, this is kind of vacation time. I feel bad. This year, Golden Week it's kind of on the weekend. So people usually get some extra vacation time, but they're not getting it this week. I learned it's important to imitate other person's expression. Yes, and again, that's part of anyone learning a language. Children copy their parents, and that's why like a grandpa says like, oh, as he picks something up, and a child will do the same thing. I actually saw I don't remember if I saw this in a documentary or I read it in a book, but this was talking about a group of chimpanzees at a zoo, and one of the kind of older male chimpanzees, he had a limp, so he walked and like he would walk like this, and his leg was, maybe it had been broken or something like that. But all of the younger male chimpanzees, they looked up to him. So they thought he was impressive, and they all started walking with a limp as well. So it's interesting how we copy each other, even if other people are maybe not doing something very healthy or correct, but we will still copy those examples naturally. And it's not just us. I mean, animals will do the same thing. All right, Mick, Ariel says, I understand you 100%, but when I want to speak, I have a problem. Yes, and again, it just means you're here. I've talked about this in other videos, but this is really the number one problem for learners. It's actually very easy to solve, but many people they stop trying to learn when they think, oh, I understand something. They say, oh, I don't need to study that more. I already know that vocabulary. And I say, well, why aren't you fluent? When I ask people if they kind of argue with me about this. And I say, okay, I'm going to teach you this. And they say, no, don't teach me that. I already know that. And I say, well, why aren't you using it fluently and correctly? It's because they don't actually know it as well as they think they do. So really, you should get more examples. You should be feeling 100% confident about what you use, okay? Like anything else. If I'm doing a job, like if I'm trying to fix your car and someone comes to me and says, hey, Drew, can you fix my car? And I say, sure, I can try. You know, if I say that, they're not going to be very confident about me because I'm not very confident. But if I go to a place, a mechanic, a car garage where they can fix cars, and I ask the guy, hey, can you fix my car? And he looks at it, he says, yeah, it's really easy. Here's the problem. This is how we're going to fix it. I say, wow, okay, that's very impressive to me. He understands everything. I have a lot of confidence in him because he has confidence in himself. And he has confidence because he knows that thing so well. Okay, I want you to be in that position. This is why I talk about these same ideas over and over and over again, because the people who actually get this idea, they get fluent. They become a good speaker. All right, let's see. All right, I think. All right, Selma says, I keep forgetting simple words in conversations. What can I do? Get more examples. That's it. That's the whole game. I know you can go to lots of YouTube videos and they will give you like 5 tips for fluency or whatever. It's like, it's just one thing. Eliminate the doubt. Okay? If there's a word you keep forgetting, go get a bunch of examples of that thing. Hear a bunch of different people talking about that thing. And I promise you, you will not forget that thing. And if you forget a particular word or you just can't think about it right then, because this happens to natives, just use something else. It's really easy. Like if I talk about like someone having a quirk and I forget the word quirk, maybe I just think, oh, like it's like a weird habit or like a weird thing that they do. You know, I can express the same idea without using that vocabulary. And so native speakers, they're able to move like water. They just go around the whatever, that thing they forgot. So it doesn't matter if you remember a particular vocabulary word or not. All right, Vam says, can you explain a little bit more about understandable input? Thanks, greetings from Argentina. Yeah, so the idea of understandable messages or comprehensible input, this just means, like I gave the example before, so if I'm teaching you some Japanese, I want to help you understand the language in the language, because that's what gets us fluent. And the reason it gets us fluent, if you understand something and you eliminate the doubt, it's the doubt that really stops you from speaking. So generally, people are nervous about speaking if they think they're going to make a mistake. All right. So if you know, I usually forget words, or I know a lot of vocabulary, but I can't really put the vocabulary together well in sentences, those are all problems of doubt. All right. So you need to get more examples of things that help you understand that vocabulary better. So if I teach you, maka, maka, ao, aoi maka. Kuro, kuroi maka. So here I'm giving you an example and I'm helping you understand the Japanese in Japanese. Now, if we stop and you never hear that again, you will probably forget that information. But if tomorrow I say, oh, aoi shatsu, aoi maka, aoi shatsu, kuro, kuroi maka, kuroi saifu, saifu. Kuroi mouse. Kuroi suito. Okay? So as I give you more examples of that thing, you will feel, wow, I actually understand what he's saying. This is what comprehensible input means. Okay? So this is rather than me using a translation or just giving you a definition of something, I'm helping you understand it in English. All right? So the point of comprehensible input is we should get you to the point where you eliminate the doubt. All right? So if we have our simple example over here. So we start getting comprehensible input. We start getting just native examples of things. We begin, so I gave you the same thing in Japanese. So we start with 0. Oh, okay, I'm starting to get it. Oh, look at that. Maybe we stop for today and then tomorrow I teach you a little bit more. Oh, now you really feel confident. So this is what you understand. This is what you still have doubt about over here. So the goal is to get enough input that you eliminate the doubt. That's it. And when you feel confident, when you get to 100%, and this is 4 individual words. So if I teach you, I keep giving you example. Look, ao. Ao, ne? Aoi maka. Ao. 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 Okay? Kuro. Ao. All right? As I keep giving you more examples, you will recognize that if I hold this up, your brain will start to fill that in. Ao. Ne? So he understands what that means. Now I recognize it. I've got the pattern. I feel confident about it. When I see that thing, now I will think that. Okay? And that's understanding it like a native. So when people talk about only comprehensible input is like, it's like the first step of that. All right? But people forget the rest of it, which is, why do we need comprehensible input? We need comprehensible input because we need it to eliminate the doubt. If we remove the doubt that stops us from speaking, that's when we speak. All right? So we don't become a speaker by just like repeating a word again and again. We really have to understand that thing and feel confident that we will use it. And this is a very logical, very easy process. If you're not confident about something, you need to get more practice with that thing. And the practice just usually means more examples. Okay? So you don't get practice by just repeating the word. Like I could write it in Japanese and you write it down in Japanese and try to repeat after me. But the more important thing is, can you get more examples that help you understand something well? That's it. All right? Hopefully everybody is getting this idea. But this is the most important idea in language learning if you want to become a fluent speaker. All right, let's see. Doraemon is the childhood of many people. Yes, so many people, and Doraemon is like, isn't that like 30 years old or more than that? Something, it's a pretty old comic. Long time Drew says, John Kasim, I am 55 and I feel more confident when I listen to you. Thanks very much. You really are a good teacher. Yes, and so the reason people feel more confident when they listen to me is because I make the language more understandable. Okay, so I don't want to like give you, here's a list of 500 vocabulary words and we're going to remember maybe 2 of those. I want to take something and explain to you that it is possible to speak fluently, to speak like a native, to even become a native just by learning like one. Okay, so if you stop learning English as a second language and you learn it as a first language like a native, then you become much more confident. Oh, the Hack Wizard is back. Why my English communication is not fluent at all. It's this. We'll keep this chart up here so I can explain to people. If you feel doubt about something, you will not use it. That's the basic, easiest way to understand that. Dragon says, Drew, can I become fluent through the short stories? Yeah, it doesn't matter how you learn. Like you could get input from short stories or movies or TV shows or listening to podcasts or reading books or whatever, it doesn't matter. But the point is, do you understand what you're learning and do you feel confident about using it? Do you still have doubt about what you're learning? That's it. All right, let's see. What is more important, to speak or to listen? It's not like listening or speaking is more important. The only real important thing is, do you understand what you hear? Do you have doubt about what you hear? If you have doubt, you're not going to communicate fluently. That's the basic idea. All right. Everyone remember this. I wish I could like reach out into the screen and just like shake people like that and say, eliminate the doubt. That's it. Okay. So it doesn't matter how you do that. Like you could do that with me, like Fluent for Life will eliminate the doubt for you, or you get lots of examples on YouTube or whatever. But if you have a question or there's a word or a kind of situation you want to describe, but you can't do that because you have doubt, then solve that. Solve that doubt, all right? Get rid of that. And I'm just giving you all of my videos are really different examples of how to do that thing. Let's see, where are we going? I'm still not at the end of these comments yet. Let's see, Abdo teacher, could you please tell us what time you're able to open the live? Seriously? Okay. Well, I might have too many people on these lives if I'd say when they're going to be. But we always make them available after the fact. And so you don't need to be with me live. You can watch this same video later and you would still get the same benefit from it. So typically they're like Mondays and Thursdays, Japan time, but might not always be. Like this week is, it's like a holiday week and I just happen to be here anyway. But maybe I will not be here on Thursday. I don't know. We'll see. Lewis says, I started learning English 5 months ago. Now I'm in my 3rd month in Fluent for Life. Because of that, I began to understand the language much better. Do you believe me? Fluent in 1 year? Ha. Well, you're already that's great, Lewis. Send us a video of you speaking. That would be awesome. So Lewis is an example of like you start, and as soon as you start eliminating doubt, you start speaking more fluently. So remember that you become fluent in individual words and phrases, and you get hundreds of those in each lesson set. So as you're going through the examples, then you should feel more fluent about that thing. And now you just continue doing that, and you will become more fluent as you go through it. So excellent work. All right, let's see. Claudia says, haha, I just finished my breakfast. Car mechanic. I don't know how, but it's fixed. Could be. Let's see. Drew, how often you... Okay, I answered that question already. Olga says, hello, dear teacher. Thanks a lot for helping us learn English better. It's my pleasure. Dan says, glad to be here with you. All right, some little hearts. Thanks for explanations about understanding. May God bless you. Greetings from Argentina. Oh, Keiko there. Look at that. Hopefully you're enjoying your golden week. What do you think writing, think writing? Oh, you would say, do you think writing is good for speaking? Yes, I do. And actually in Fluent for Life, we have you do some writing, but this is just writing down individual pieces of maybe like a phrase or something like that, just to help you remember it a little bit better. So like if you learn something like mouth watering, we really want to make sure you understand what that means so you write it correctly. Okay, you feel a little bit more confident as you do it. That's why we have all these different angles as you're learning. It just means different ways of understanding the vocabulary so people can understand these. I think Japanese people have, you would say, fewer opportunities to come into English than other country people. I would say that's not true, especially with the internet. So everybody watching this video right now, like all of those people or people in Fluent for Life, we have people, I remember one guy who joined Fluent for Life a while ago. He just lives on, like, he's like in Nepal or something, just like in a small mountain village or something like that. So he doesn't have anybody to speak with, but he's improving with the lessons just by learning with that. So with the internet, you have information access to all the things that you need to eliminate doubt. That's the important thing. So you might not have a person to talk with, but you don't need a person to talk with to eliminate doubt. You just need to get the examples. So if you feel more confident as you listen to me, you're not speaking with me right now. I'm speaking to you. I'm trying to eliminate any doubt you have. And if you have questions, then you can ask those. But my job is to eliminate the doubt for you. That's what I do. All right. So you don't need to speak in order to do that. But even in Japan, there are plenty of foreigners around, depending on where you live. Dan again, it is easy to get what you say here, but it is hard to understand what people say in movies. Yes. And so this is why, again, in a program like in Fluent for Life, you could do this by yourself. It's just harder to get the examples. But in Fluent for Life, we give you examples of how natives actually talk. All right. So we want to move you from understanding teachers to understanding how natives talk and getting you used to that kind of speech. All right. So it's very simple. Yes, it is like a different kind of English. Niece says, I have a doubt, like I was watching the movie Lights Out, but how can the name of the movie be on a daily life? I don't understand your question. Rephrase that if you could. Kasim, thank you, Wizard, for your advice. I don't know if you're talking to the wizard or you're calling me a wizard. Of course, I am trying to prepare for eternal life, but I am still alive in this world. I am trying to balance both. I see. Let's see. All right, we're almost at the end of the questions. Very good. How can I know if I'm learning English as a first language and a native as a second language? Please clarify. Good question. If you're learning English through your native language, you're learning it as a second language. So if I'm a Japanese person, as an example, so I live in Japan, maybe I'm an elementary school kid and Japanese is my native language, and I'm learning English through Japanese. So I have a textbook and it's got Japanese in it, and here's the translation in English. That's learning English as a second language. But if you're learning English as a first language, you're able to understand English in English. All right, that's the main important difference between those. All right. Hello, everyone from Brazil. And Canero says, hey, Drew, do you usually think in English or Japanese in your mind? And also, does your wife consider you fluent Japanese? I guess my wife would think I was fluent, yeah. I don't know. We don't really talk about it. I think my Japanese is probably better than her English at this point. And it would be an interesting test. She understands a lot, but she has less speaking confidence than I do. But I was just, in terms of thinking in the language, if I'm speaking a lot in the language, I think in the language. So if I'm speaking in English, I will think in English, and if I'm speaking in Japanese, I will think in Japanese. But if it's a situation where I'm like translating for someone and I have to think about something, I might do a little bit of both. But I spent about an hour at a friend of mine's business. So he's trying to figure out how to improve his business, and I was giving him some advice about that, and I was doing this all in Japanese. And so I wasn't thinking in English at all. I was just like, just explaining what you have to do in Japanese. All right. Let's see. Like, give me some examples to use lights out in my daily life. Well, typically you learn something like that, and like you turn out the light. Boom. Like, lights out. So like that's lights out right there. That's lights out. Okay, so if you think about just getting different examples of, which I don't want to go into right now, but that's where you understand something from like a physical example. Turning the lights out, it usually means ending something because it becomes dark. All right, so we've been going for 80 minutes. Yes, you can say like lights off or lights out, same kind of thing. Yes, so you can say, you will hear people saying turn the lights out or turn the lights off. Same thing. All right. Thanks, Teacher Drew. Awesome class as always. Have a nice day. All right, well, we're not quite finished yet. I thought I would use, since I have a little bit of time. Yeah, we get a little bit of time. So, sorry, teacher, just want to answer your student. Okay, you guys are talking to each other. Elizabeth says, in my opinion, generally speaking, we can't speak fluently without pronouncing and spelling the words. Well, typically, yes. I mean, you could actually speak fluently but pronounce everything badly. That's possible. Like often little kids, they're kind of speaking fluently, but maybe they don't pronounce words exactly correctly, but they're still communicating fluently. So fluency, a part of that, like an important part, especially for like professional communication, is making sure you sound well, so other people can understand what you're saying. But yes, so pronunciation is certainly important. Grammar would be more important because if people don't understand exactly what you're trying to say, or you communicate something, it's like if you look at the comments here, some of them are worded well, and I can understand what they're saying, but other people are not. Like if the grammar is incorrect, then it takes me some time to try to understand what people are saying. All right, Armando again, do you consider yourself fluent in Japanese? Yes, I do. If so, have you put in practice your knowledge about how to get fluent at English? Yes. So me, like, I feel more qualified to help people get fluent in English because I understand what it's like to learn. And so I spent 15 years struggling and failing to learn different languages, including Japanese. So I failed to learn Latin, French, Spanish, and Japanese over 15 years. And then I came to Japan, and even after spending a year in Japan trying to learn, I still got stuck all the time. I still had trouble expressing myself. And so the traditional methods were not working for me, and they don't work for most people, and I wanted to understand why. And when I learned about like comprehensible input and understanding things in the language itself, then I finally discovered, you just have to eliminate the doubt. So that's like my own like final understanding, because the doubt is the last thing you need to remove before you speak. So if you're going to say something in a conversation but you don't feel sure about it, maybe you'll use that, but you probably won't feel very happy about that. All right, so if you remove the doubt, and you can do that by yourself, I don't need to have anyone there with me. I just need to understand something well. Okay, now I get it. And I've given in my videos, even this video as well, many examples of clearing the doubt away. If you eliminate the doubt, then the speaking is it's the natural result of that. Fabricio says, hello, Teacher Drew. Before to start conversation, what do you need the student to learn? No? Well, I mean, depending on what you're talking about, I would focus on that. All right, people from other countries, other people. Is that a question? I don't know. Let's see. Thank you, Drew. I make the day with such a great teacher on earth. Well, you guys are too kind. All right, let's go through the last or the second thing over here. I think you get the point anyway. So the first one is if you're learning something completely new in English that you don't even have a word for in your native language. So if I, as an example, just to give one more example for this, let's say I start working on a boat, and I go to France, and I don't really know French very well, but I get on a boat. I'm going to learn the names of all of these like little pieces of the boat, and I'm going to learn those in French, and I don't know what they are in English. So I understand it directly, like, oh, look at that, like, you know, I know what a sail is, but maybe I don't know the name of this pole or this other thing, or, you know, different pieces of the boat. So these things are all things I would learn in French, and I have no way of translating. The only thing I can do is connect directly with the piece of the boat. So I learn that, and then I hear that vocabulary again and again as I work on the boat. All right? So this is something I actually did, but it was in English. I lived on a boat in Alaska for a few months, and I learned a bunch of boat vocabulary that I didn't know before. And I became fluent in talking about that kind of stuff. So when I first got on the boat, I didn't know what I'm talking about. But after a few months, I'm able to have conversations about things on the boat. And a lot of people that don't have that experience, they wouldn't know that information, okay? So it's just an example of how you would teach your brain that it's okay, you don't need the translations. So if you get good examples and you understand something, you don't need the translations, all right? So that was the first thing we looked at. The second thing is taking vocabulary you already know, and even if you know this in your native language as well, you're trying to extend this vocabulary. All right, and when I say extend, like using it in a slightly different way, or maybe something surprising and different that you might not use in your native language as well. So let's say you know the word, as an example, flip. So here's something like I have, do something kind of flat. Actually, this book over here is a good example. So I take the book and I flip the book like that, to flip it over. I'm flipping the book. So I could do a flip, I could jump and turn around like this, but this is the basic idea, like to turn over like this. So this is like turn around, but this is to turn over, but to do it quickly is a flip like that. So if I'm flipping the book, all right? So you probably know this word already, and maybe you have the idea of something else in your native language. Maybe you understand what that is. You might even translate that word in your head. But to take this and we extend it and help you understand it more like a native, we want you to be thinking to become a native. So if we have an expression, I'll teach the expression in just a moment, but I'll give it to you in context first. So I was talking with another friend. I talk with lots of friends of mine, and he was talking about quitting his job. To quit his job. And so I was saying, oh, are you really want to quit your job? Are you sure you want to do that? And he was telling me, well, I guess I could, like, if I stay in my job, I don't really like what I do. All right. So like on one thing is like, I don't like the work. But on the flip side, it's good money. This is a really good expression for people talking about money. It's good money. It's good money. So it's good money means it pays well. It's good money. All right, but this is the expression that you probably heard. So I don't like the work, but on the flip side, it's good money. On the flip side, it's good money. So you can probably guess what this means. So maybe you know this word flip, and if you didn't, I've given you some examples of it already. So I take this marker and here's one side, I could flip it over, whoop, and now you're looking at the other side of the marker. So on the flip side, it's good money. On the flip side, it's good money. So this is where we take a word that you might know and we want to extend that and use it in a more interesting native way that maybe you don't also have in your native language. So the idea of on the flip side, it comes from records. So usually you're playing like an old record. You put the needle down and you're playing the music on that. And so the records would typically have another side with some other music on the backside. So on the flip side of the record, and so radio DJs, they would used to say like, I'll see you on the flip side. I'll see you on the flip side. So I'm going to play a music like a song from one side of the record. We will flip it over and play something on the other side. So on the flip side. So when we use this expression, we're talking about maybe the opposite of something, or just here's an alternative or something else. Okay? Yes, so that's another good example. To flip-flop on something. So you don't know what you're going to do. Like you say yes, then no, you're flip-flopping. You're flip-flopping, flip-flopping. Same idea. So as you get more examples of that, you might not have an idea for flip-flopping in your native language. I remember I was in Vienna in a German class. And I was not there. I was just like visiting a friend of mine, but I was in the class. And I remember the teacher was explaining something. He said, wow, there's this cool German word for thinking of a good way to respond to someone, but after the conversation is finished. There's actually a German word for that. And there are interesting German words for they make these really long words of things that it's like, oh, that's interesting. You can turn that into a word, like the word for a windshield wiper fluid, or just weird things like that. So it's kind of quirky about the language, but a very interesting thing. But that was something that I don't have a word for in English. And so I was like, oh, okay, I actually don't remember the word now, but it was interesting that there is such a word. But the idea here is that we can take something that we know and we want to extend that as we learn more in English and understand it more in English. Then you will start feeling more confident about the word flip, but also, look at that. Now I can use it in more interesting ways. Okay? So just wanted to give you, I'll give you one more quick example. We'll use the word catch. Again, when we learn a word, typically you might have some word like this in your native language. So I throw the marker, catch the marker, throw the marker, catch the marker, catch something. So this is the physical idea, just like we have the physical flipping of something. I flip something up in the air. So it's turning like this quickly, the basic idea. So if I catch something, but I can catch more than like catching a fish or catching a marker or something. I can catch some Z's. So catch some Z's. So Z's, this means to take a nap. So to catch some Z's. Or something might catch my eye. So if I'm looking something catches, let's see, to catch my eye. So if I'm looking this way and I see oh, look at that, just a beautiful woman walks by me and oh, she caught my eye. She got my eye and was look at me, she caught my eye. So again, we can take something simple and physical like this, but as we learn a little bit more, we play with the word a little bit more, we understand it more like a native, so we become a native. Okay? Isn't that exciting? Hopefully you're thinking I could be a native too. So yes, a person born in the United States is going to know more references and other things like that, but you can start any time to become a native. It's really that easy. It's just what you learn and how you learn it. That's the difference. All right, I'll go back and check chat, but look at that. We've gone through an hour and a half so far. Let's see. All right, Tolan says, I'm meeting with meeting. I'll watch later. Good idea. Flip, turn around, twist. Yeah, so again, to twist something, if I take a towel as an example, twisting is a different thing. And it's easier to understand these things as you see them, which is how a native would learn it, rather than you just getting examples. So if I take a towel like this, and here I'm turning it in two different ways, that creates a twist in the towel. So this is to twist something, okay? But if I take the towel and flip it like that, I'm turning it, it turns around like that way, that's flipping the towel, okay? So I'm taking one side of it, and now you see the other, and very quickly. So if I do it slowly, this is turning over. I'm turning the towel over. But if I do it quickly, whoa, I'm flipping the towel. All right? Let's see now. All right, can't decide. Okay, we got that example already. So did he quit eventually or not? It's like the friend looking for the job. I think he did quit. He did quit the job. So like even though the money was good, on the flip side, he had more time with his family. And that was more important to him. Okay, Abdullah says, thanks for streaming, sir. I cannot wait to watch your next live stream. Wish you good health. Well, thank you very much. All right, Nero says, you always catch attention. Yes, so you can catch someone's attention. Say, hey, look at that. I just caught you. Okay, I didn't physically touch you, but I can still catch you in the same way. All right, be sure to catch the next live video. And if you can't watch it, you can always watch the replay later. All right, Hania says, can you pronounce cut versus caught? So cut, caught. That A-U-G-H, caw sound. If you'd like to learn more about pronunciation, you can hear me pronounce all of these things. You can hear me say cut and caught and quit and quirk and all kinds of other words in Frederick. Just click on the link in the description below this video and you can hear me pronounce basically anything because I go through all the different sounds of English. All right, and all in one, learn with Dinesh is great. Glad to hear it. And look at that, we got to the end of the comments. All right, so remember, you don't have to be born in a particular place or from particular parents. Being native is just what you learn and how you learn it. So if you understand like a native, and that just means you're learning real English, so the real vocabulary that people use, but you're also understanding it without needing your native language to do that. So if you're learning English in English, that's how you become a fluent speaker. That's how you can actually become native. And even starting today, if this is your first video with me, you're starting today, you're starting to think more in English like a native English speaker than you are becoming already a native English speaker. Isn't that cool? All right, if you'd like to learn more about that though, you can click on the link in the description and learn more about Fluent for Life. Are you twisting the towel or wringing it? Well, it's both. So and this is like a kind of, and this is, you learn these kind of nuances as you're going through them, but let's say I have this towel here. So let's say I twist the towel like this. Like that's just this twisting motion. So I don't need to do it. But if I really like now I'm like really, really twisting it, then I'm wringing the towel. Okay? So I could twist like something just a little bit. I could twist my body, but I'm not wringing my body. But if like a giant comes and like really like squeezes me like that, that's to wring something. So if this towel is wet, and I just twist the towel, probably water will not come out. But if I wring the towel, like now I'm going to squeeze it really and get a lot of water coming out. That's the difference, okay? But see how you understood that in English, okay? I didn't try to use whatever your native language is, but like even for people in Japan, I don't use Japanese to teach English because it wouldn't really help people speak, all right? All right, well, that's it. Again, if you'd like to learn more, if you would like me to just make you a fluent speaker like I do in Fluent for Life, you can click on the links in the description, and then I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.